Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Caleb.
So, before we start this interview, can you please introduce yourself? Like, where have you graduated in, and what's your profession?
Okay, I graduated from Polytechnic University of the Philippines, Taguig, and I'm currently a middle school teacher in science grade 4 to 6, but before I was the upper school teacher grade 7 to grade 12, and I taught English.
Wow. So, our topic for today is perception on reading books, the difference between the film adaptation and its books. So, how often do you read books, and what genre of books do you like to read?
Uh, I can say it's different now, but before I used to read at least two books, I mean 4 books a year, something like that. And my genre is more on, moral books, philosophical books, uh, ethical books, something that has to do with morality, you know.
Okay. So, who is your favorite author?
Oh, my favorite author is Paulo Coelho, if you know him.
Oh, is it a Filipino author?
No, 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 foreign.
The name sounds Filipino. So, um, can you at least name three of your favorite books?
Three of my favorite books. The first one is Alchemist, The Alchemist. The second one is The Joy Luck Club,
Mm-hmm.
and then the third one is Flowers for Algernon.
Oh, okay, nice. And what are the books that you have read that have been made into film?
Uh, Fortunately, The Alchemist doesn't have a film adaptation. Well, the two books I mentioned, like The Joy Luck Club, has a film adaptation. Flowers for Algernon has a film adaptation. So, two of my favorites has film adaptations.
So, in those two favorite books that has a film adaptation, which one do you prefer? Read it in a book or watch it in a movie?
Books are better. To be honest, books are better. Uh, do I need to explain? Like elaborate on that?
Sure, you can.
Okay. With books,
Mm-hmm.
every reader is unique. Like every reader has his own version of how he understood the book. For example, how he imagines the place, how that person imagines what happened. We have different interpretations. We have different, we're unique in how we perceive the message of the book or the characters in a book. But then, I mean, it's not bad that we have film adaptations. It's a great help, to be honest. For example, if we have students who are not fond of reading books, who are most likely visual learners, audiovisual, they prefer hearing it and seeing it rather than reading it. Kasi most likely they have uh, attention problems, but they have what they call that, low attention span. So it varies, but personally, I prefer books. It's like, it's something that would uh reveal your own imagination. It's something that would culture your own imagination, especially for students who are, who are, if you're trying trying to develop them as future writers, future authors, it's better that they have the skill to imagine how it would be like in if other people are reading it. Unlike kasi we're always with movies kasi we're so dependent with what the producers did, what the editors did. It's like everything's there. We're not even using our imagination anymore. So I prefer books.
And sometimes they um, like created a new storyline.
Yes. Actually, there's actually two movies. The first one, uh, The Flowers for Algernon. If
Mm-hmm.
you read it in the book, you will see it in a different perspective. Like you imagine the main character in different perspective. But then in the movie, it's different. It's like a lot of things has changed.
Uh-huh.
So, yun nga. Also with Much Ado About Nothing, yung kay William Shakespeare.
Mm-hmm.
And the book, the main characters, I don't know if it's Don Juan or Don Pedro. They're British. They should look British in the book, something like that. But then in the movie, I think they injected some politics. They made the other guy a black person. I mean, it's not bad. We're not racist naman. It's not that we hate that the character is black. It's just that in the book, that character is not black.
Oh.
But then when they made it into a movie, it's changed a lot because of considering politics. But I mean, it's okay. It's okay. But then
Yes.
when you read the book, it's just different.
It defeats the purpose and the
Not necessarily defeats the purpose, but then uh kasi if we think of it, it dates back a long time ago when the black people are still slaves.
oh yeah.
And then in the movie they made one person black. So it's like not historically accurate.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean if the purpose of the movie is just to help those people who wants to understand the movie or the message of the movie, that's okay. But then historically speaking, no.
Well, that's the difference between film adaptation and the books. So,
Yes, also there's one more book. I think it's Percy Jackson.
oh
What's
yeah, the Lightning Thief.
the Lightning Thief? One of my students who's really into history noticed that the armors they used were not uh the armors they used in I think it's the Battle of the Tag. The
Mm,
armors are not Roman or Greek. I don't remember. But then he noticed that
really?
something's different, unlike how he imagined it in the book. So yeah.
Um, so, do you think reading books is more important and helpful to you?
Mm, well, that's a pretty hard question. But then uh, it depends. To be honest, it depends. If it's for me,
Mm-hmm.
I would go 60-40. 60 for books, 40 for movies. 60 would be, just to make sure that you're still using your imagination, cultivating your imagination. 40, if ever there are students who wants to understand the story even if they're having hard time reading it, like providing other options for the students to learn the book
Mm-hmm.
if they don't want to read it, 'di ba? If it's not their interest to read.
Okay. So, That's it. That's the end of
Oh, that's it?
the
Oh, okay.
so thank you, Sir Jared.
Oh, actually, I'd like to share something.
Sure.
Last year, we organized an event, and then the students were debating whether, uh, what do you call this? Whether books, like, those fantasy books are changing the reality perception of students, you know. And it's important that at a young age they cultivate their imagination. So, kasi I don't know, we have a lot of good writers right now. But then I don't know if you're aware, 'di ba, kapag ka may mga teleserye sa atin sa Pilipinas,
Mhm.
we find the story is weird. Parang ang corny, ang cliche, 'di ba? Parang hindi masyadong pinag-isipan yung pagkakasulat.
Yes, yes.
Tapos lalo na yung pagkaka-film
Yeah.
when filmed already, 'di ba? So, it's also in when we cultivate readers who are more fond of books than movies,
Mhm.
we can make better movies in the future. We can make better writers to make better movies in the future. It's like those things are related eh.
Mhm.
But so far, I think the most, uh, if we're talking about books or movies, I would say that the best adaptation would be the series of Harry Potter.
Oh,
Ayan lang.
how about Lord of the Rings?
I haven't read that, so I don't have a say yet.
But for me personally, I don't like the teleserye and movies in here. I find it um, not that I am judging um, the Filipino way of
Yes,
making people.
not naman.
Yeah, but it's really the story they convey is like the tip of the iceberg. But if you
Mm,
compare it into other countries and nations, um, their storyline and their what and they what they're trying to convey is much more um um concise and
mm,
and um and you can really feel it.
mm.
So I hope
There's still,
Filipino.
yeah, still a lot of room for improvement. But then, ayun nga, ayun, think. I don't have anything to say ita.
Yeah. So yeah, books is much more preferred. Um,
Yeah, like better readers, better writers, better movies. And think.
okay, so thank you, Sir Deard.
Also, I'd like to add one last thing. Kasi we also use movies with their students
Mm-hmm.
in my school right now. And then when we're using movies, it's important that if they're not gonna read the book itself, if they're having a hard time reading the book, at least put subtitles. That way they're still reading and watching at the same time. So yeah, yun lang. That's something I always remember when we make them watch movies.
Mm-hmm.
Subtitles.
Well, they still learn, di ba?
Mm.
So any more that any more?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. Don't worry.
So thank you again, Sir Deard.
No problem.